mag rack. And now, Wild Wheels. Low, slow, and ready to go. That's the name of the game. Custom paint and interiors and chrome everywhere. Not a soiled spot to spare. Sure, lowriders come in all shapes and sizes, but today we're going old school, down on the floor with the classic Chevys of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, the sleek 60s Impalas, and maybe even a Caddy or two. So hop in and hop along. We're cruising to a place where car and culture come together with lowriders.
Aquellos ojitos verdes con que se andarán paseando.
It's Father's Day in Tucson, Arizona, and like every year, the Tucson family gathers at the house of the family patriarch to honor Dad with food, cold beer, and traditional music, sung by the man of the hour himself. He taught himself guitar by watching his father, an Arizona ranchero who brought traditional Mexican songs with him north. While music is playing in the yard, on the street unfolds an impromptu car show. Because in lowriding, there are families and there are car clubs. The Tucsons are both. Al Tucson started the club when he built his first lowrider just after getting married. He's up to 5 and counting. Now, Al might build the cars, but his wife Sandra's the boss. Of course, isn't that always the case?
Who better than your own kids to be able to run with the car club, you know, because everybody gets along, everybody knows each other, everybody, you know, there's no fights, no hassles, you know. Like I said, who's going to argue with a mom and dad?
Certainly not Abel, a.k.a. Garfield. Garfield will be getting married at the end of the summer, and Dad's building a new lowrider just for the occasion. Picture this in a black Cherry with tan mohair upholstery, cruising as the lead in a wedding parade just 6 weeks from now. As you can see, Al's got a lot of work to do in a short period, but he does have one thing going for him. It starts, original engine and all. Now, Al's built cars for the entire family, except his youngest son, Tony, who will have to make do with his lowrider bike for the time being. Each of the kids got their cars on their 16th birthday. As for Mom, she's driving the 1938 Chevy Master Deluxe that Al gave her on her 25th wedding anniversary. She calls it La California, a rolling reminder of her LA roots. Together, the Tucson family makes up the Tucson chapter of the LA-based Dukes. To keep the charter, they continually spearhead charity work here in town and also work with the police and the city on programs to keep kids off drugs, out of gangs, and in school.
We don't have the image of a lowrider. We don't have the image of a, you know, of a gang. You know, a lot of times when people don't know us, they think they're going to see, you know, gangster people come out of the car, and they see it's just a mom, a dad, kids, grandkids, you know. They see a whole family come out. You know, so it's totally different than the image that they think.
So already we're learning things about lowriding we didn't expect. But of course the big question, where did all this lowriding come from anyway? To help find the answer, we visited Jim Griffith, a retired professor and folklorist living in the desert outside Tucson, Arizona. While everyone's pretty sure they started in post-war America, no one's quite sure if they originally hail from Southern California or northern New Mexico. But tracking down the first car is really beside the point, because to get to the roots of lowriding, all you really need to do is just visit a place like the Mission del San Javier, just up the road from Jim's place.
If you go into that thing, you'll find yourself in a completely different universe. You'll find yourself in a universe where the main governing principles involve dramatic contrast between decorated and undecorated surfaces, between light and shadow, the use of rich materials and rich colors, and involve a huge number of different images brought together in one place, different concepts, different ideas. It's the same Baroque aesthetic in the same population.
Of course, these days, color and imagery often take on a less religious tone. Well, unless you worship Garfield, the theme of Abel's well-appointed 48 Chevy Fleetmaster. The color and styling on Margie's 48 is distinctly more feminine. She calls it Cherry Baby. a car that celebrates the fairer sex in what's often considered a man's game.
I'm a girl. I like hearts. I like lips. I like girly stuff. So this is a girl's car. It's not a guy's car.
The imagery on Al's 39 Deluxe Al Capone car largely honors his marriage with pictures of he and Sandra. But there's also zoot suit-clad dancers and an old Tucson diner from Al and Sandra's courting years. Of course, there's chrome to spare, but Al's also made abundant use of brass, styling reminiscent of the Charro regalia and well-adorned Palomino horses, the cruisers of an earlier age.
Back in the day when cowboys had their horses, they'd dress them up and go after the girls. And same thing with it. Nowadays, they go out, get an old car, and go cruising.
And while horses buck and rear, so too the lowrider. The hydraulics started to help the low-slung cars negotiate train tracks and speed bumps. But these days, it's evolved into an elaborate dance, mandatory in car club competition.
You just have to basically memorize your switches when you get them. It takes a little time, but just basically there's back. That just drops the back. And then here's a front one. And then right here is just the corners. These ones are sides.
Now, traffic police generally frown on goosing the hydraulics while driving on the road, so don't tell anyone. Oh, wait, this is TV, isn't it? Oops. Yep, okay. Anyway, while Garfield's got the full kit and caboodle, when it comes to the lowrider dance, it's Al's oldest son, Sparky, that's got the most pop in his hop.
This one hits a little bit harder than the Garfield does.
That it does. And it also has a lot more get up and go. While the rest of the family's got the straight six, Sparky's got a V8. His 51 Chevy is the newest in the Duke stable. It's the first car Al ever built, as the oldest son Sparky was the first in line. It's got an elegantly simple blue scheme with a gambling Vegas motif on the trunk. Now you're probably wondering if Sparky's his real name. No, it's Al like his dad.
Sparky came from the hydraulics that I have installed in the vehicle. I used to ask a lot of my friends and buddies that when I would hit the switch, make sure there's no sparks in the trunk. Make sure all the wires are tight, connected, good, so we can cruise and have a good time without having to worry about any fire hazards. So they called me Sparky.
Speaking of hydraulics, at a weekly lowrider meet up at a local park here in Tucson, they're on full display. Now, a lot of the hopping you see here at the park is airbag technology. That's a no-no in old-school lowriding where it's hydraulics or nothing. Of course, a lot of the lowriders you see on Sundays aren't exactly purists. But aside from the Dukes, there are a few around. One of them is Frank Contreras. Like Sandra and Al Tehran, Frank's one of the cornerstones of the Tucson lowrider community. Frank's got one of the few sleek 60s out here, but not the only one. 18-year-old PJ Hernandez has a slick 62 he built with his dad. His airbag suspension gives him quicker reaction than hydraulics. The airbags mean his car doesn't really conform to old-school standards, but that's all right, because at the moment, he's got other priorities.
Women and lowriding, man, that's my two favorite things, women and lowriding. To feel like some company, just go down the road with this car and find all kinds of ladies out there.
Now, when it comes to 60s lowriders, the Impala is the car of choice. So to see some of the slickest Impalas in the country all in one place, we paid a visit to the Lifestyle Car Club. Lifestyle's been a club since 1975, and now they're one of the best lowrider clubs in the biggest lowrider city in America, Los Angeles. And just our luck. This morning, it did something it doesn't do that much in Southern California. It rained. Generally, lowriders won't even come out when it's wet, but they made an exception for us. Just meant a few added protocols.
In Lifestyle, if it's raining, he has to pull over before he gets here, and he shows anybody immediately. You pull over, you pull your flag down. You don't drive if there's a condition wrong with your car. And as you can see right now, there's a couple of members cleaning his car for him, because it doesn't matter who owns the car, because it reflects on us.
Responsible for enforcing the rules is this guy, Lifestyle President Chewy Alonzo, or Chewy Rabbit, as he's known around here. His car, stoned immaculate, is a 63 Impala with styling to match the year. It's got that Jetsons or early Bond film flavor. The retro feel continues inside with tweed and vinyl to match the paint. The styling even extends into the trunk with hydraulics and batteries hidden behind the finish work. While the '63 Impala is a good catch, it's the year after that everyone wants. And lifestyle officer Joe Rodriguez has one of the prettiest around. It's a '64 Super Sport Impala convertible, and this puppy can go. It's got a chrome-covered 350 crate motor, which puts out about 400 horsepower. For Joe, the power is nice, but of course it's not really about that.
You got to be able to put it on the floor. You got to be able to drop it. It's not about hopping. It's not about getting the front end off the ground. You need to be able to have those options, but it's not really about that. It's about putting it on the floor. It's about being as low as you can to the floor.
It also has front and back side-to-side hydraulics. Indeed, a graceful Palomino. Speaking of graceful Palomino, check out this '69 Impala. Lifestyle member Tattoo Tony's been working on it for over 5 years, and for his effort was recently awarded with Best Interior in Show at Vegas. But it didn't come cheap. He reckons the interior cost him about 10 grand, and that was before he got into customizing the dash. One particularly unusual feature is hydraulic pumps in the front rather than in the trunk. All chromed, of course. On the outside, the chameleon paintwork alters the colors depending on lighting and where you stand. He's got a customized grille, a skirt molded into the body, and the biggest sunroof we've ever seen. Now, lifestyle isn't all '60s Impalas. Treasurer Bobby Flores drives the candy apple pink '79 Coupe de Ville that was getting dried off earlier. Like most lowriders, El Diablo's in the detail. The candy theme is everywhere, literally. Every bit of trim's been chromed. For that matter, so has the rear end and fuel tank. On the interior, he took apart the entire dash, rewired and marble painted it and put it all back together. No small task. He chopped the stock bench seat to make buckets that still operate with the original controls. It's all done from a center console that also controls the windows, doors, hydraulics, and pretty much everything else, except the DVD player. Bobby's been working on it for a year and a half, and more dollars than he'd care to mention. But believe it or not, this low-riding caddy's still a work in progress.
I'm not into basketball. I'm not into baseball, bowling. I'm not a golfer. Guys go work every day, 40 hours. Where they go on the weekend? They go play golf. After my 40 hours of work, I go to my car.
Back at the park in Tucson, all the lowriders are going to their cars. That's because the party's getting broken up. Apparently, the city's instituted a ban on car clubs and loitering. The groups are told to move to another part of the park where security cameras are in place. Al and Sandra know a lot of the police through anti-gang efforts. They also know the rap that follows the lowrider. There's a lot of suspicion, and at least for the old school, it's a constant source of frustration.
I guess anywhere you go, you're going to get harassed, but we try to live with it, There's not very much we can do anyway.
He's using...
Back at the Father's Day barbecue, Senor Tehran is about to sing a family favorite. A song written by his father, a Mexican-American ranchero whose work pulled him to both sides of the border.
Listen to this. How do you do, Saidu, my friend? How do you do, my friend?
The lyrics cleverly blend English and Spanish. It parodies the confusion of gringo border control, the perils of mixed identity, being neither here nor there, but someplace in between.
Yo enamoré a Lola, ese me vino al fight. Yo le dije tomorrow night, I'll bring you $50. How do you do, my friend? Good morning or good night.
There are labels to plug in, call it Mexican-American, Chicano, whatever. Terms that draw a line between what is not clearly understood and what is accepted as truly American. But then again, what exactly is truly American? If you know the answer, let me know. Until then, why not just sit back and enjoy the ride?
How do you do, my friend? Good morning or good night.
A lot of people think lowriding is trouble, violence, gangbangers. It's not. Lowriding is a culture. It's a heritage. I build airplanes for a living. North of military plane for 20 years. I have a house. I have a mom and dad that I take care of. I got my wife. I got my daughter. I have bills like everybody else. And what do I do on the side? Work on cars.
Unity in the community is a big thing in our family. But of course it has to start with us first, being able to get along with our children, being able to teach them, show them by our example. It's just bringing our kids up with learning to give, learning to do for others. So that's what it's all about.
Que hasta los muy viejitos dicen goodbye, goodbye.